evening and welcome to the Philomath Central School District Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. We start every meeting with a pledge to the flag, so if everyone please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. So we have a consent agenda tonight. The adoption of the consent agenda upon a motion and a second and affirmative vote by members present approves each and every item so designated. However, prior to the adoption of the consent agenda, any board member may remove any item from the consent agenda. This item will then come up for discussion as part of the regular agenda. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite routine matters so the board has more time to deal with substantive matters. So if I could, let's get the consent agenda on the floor, and then we can discuss it before we approve it. Mr. Hawk, and a second. Second. Mr. Marsh. Is there anything anyone would like to pull out of the consent agenda? Any concerns? We're all good? Okay. So with that, all those in favor of adopting the consent agenda, if you would signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Great. So the board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Concerns and comments during this session should be directly related to items listed on the proposed agenda for this meeting. Audience members seeking a response should complete a board correspondence sheet and return it to our district clerk, Christine Slagle, who is not here, but we have Dr. Wright over here who is filling in. So if anybody has any concerns, they can fill out a form, get it to Dr. Wright, and we will provide an answer for you. Does anybody want to address the board tonight on anything? All right then.
I would like to just kind of interject this piece. This evening, due to our consent agenda, take the time to ask the question as far as what is on our agenda for executive session this evening, and have a few of those things brought into the open meeting, one of them being WELOC and school safety, as far as discussion in the open public meeting, and also the Quest program. And I don't know when you feel fit to discuss that.
Yeah, both of those are in the superintendent's report, and as always, you'll have a chance to share any information you'd like from the board perspective.
Okay, now I know you have a presentation from John coming at executive. Could he eliminate any sensitive material and give that presentation in the open meeting?
We don't have a presentation. He's just was invited to participate in the discussion.
Okay. So will we be able to reference John as you would have then?
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So we now have a special presentation on the Fastbridge Pedals update. Ms. Piper.
Hopefully, you can get it up on the screen.
I just wanted to react to Ms. Piper real quick. I just want to remind everybody, and it's good to see so many students here tonight. Thanks for coming. You guys might not realize, but each year the board and the district has different goals that we work on. And one of the goals that we worked on this year was learning more as a board and as an administrative team about the instructional program at other schools or other buildings, in this case at WELOC, and also at the elementary building later on tonight. So we're really just trying to share information that helps us all more understand what's happening in each building in terms of instruction and in terms of student learning, in terms of growth, And this is actually our last presentation of the school year, presentations this year on this note. So we appreciate everybody who's come to participate and those we have here tonight. So, sorry, I just wanted to kind of refocus everybody on why we're doing
I
this.
think all of the seniors, you were in kindergarten, first grade. Did you have second grade at Wheelock as well, or did we move prior to that? Just kindergarten. I knew this group was the group I started at Wheelock as principal in kindergarten, so, and you're seniors. Awesome, awesome, fun. I need name tags though, because you're all like, sorry Nick, like 6, 8, I don't know how tall you are, but yeah. A little bit. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Wheelock Early Childhood Center. Might not.
Do you need us to-
Sorry. Yeah, it's not.
Maybe we can just give Margie the
Yeah, sorry.
high sign.
Okay, so I just wanted to go through a couple of the highlights that are happening at pre-K and kindergarten at Wheelock. I spoke last time a little bit about our Petals grant that we're doing, and we're in the second year of Petals. And all parents completed what we call the Devereaux rating scale at the beginning of the school year this year. And it's a rating scale that looks at how children are doing social, emotionally, behaviorally. So they filled that out when they came in for visitation and met with the teachers. All teachers also, after they got to know the students for about 30 days, filled out the same scale so they could look at how the children are doing at school compared to how parents might see them at home. The teachers also completed weekly behavioral data for Petals and submitted it to their behavioral coach. I have that data, but unfortunately it didn't get submitted because of Christine not being here. So I do have that. I will share with the board so you can see the growth that the students made based on the Petals interventions with the behavioral coach and the interventions that we did with the parents. So I'm going to go ahead and get that. Oh, it is there. Okay, it is there. It's a new one. Hey. So you can see these are the social emotional scales. This is from the teacher, so I just have to get a little closer because I'm blind. The behavioral coach would come in and observe every couple of weeks and talk with the teachers, spend time in the classrooms with the kids, and really collect that data and take a look at how the students were doing with the social emotional behaviors. So you can see from October to April that the students, they had a little bit of a dip, but they have improved how the teachers interact and correspond with the students on their social emotional skills. So this is looking at the teachers. How are they doing with the students and those skills? So we can go over to the next one. And actually, I have specific data that they sent me for this. So this social emotional scales for children looks at children's unprompted use of social emotional skills throughout the day. So an example is use the listening rules and identify emotions of self and or others. Each classroom receives a score averaged over items of between 1, not using the strategies at all, and 5, that they always use the strategies each month. And the data is collected by the coach that comes in to observe in the classrooms. So you can see the scale going up, that the students are really able to gain some of these skills between not just the coach being there working with the teachers being more cognizant of what they're doing to the students, but also the second step curriculum that they're implementing daily with the kids. So I'm going to go to the next one. So you can see the disruptive behaviors, and again, this was taken weekly. The teachers submitted this data to the coaches, to the coach every week, taking a look at what really disruptive behaviors. Every week they answer the question, over the week, how often did disruptive behaviors impact your classroom to where classroom staff had to stop what they were doing to deal with the behaviors. So this shows you how the students did in September, the middle of the year, and where they are now. So the Devereaux I spoke about, this was the scale that was filled out by the parents at the beginning of the year, and it's also being completed. Most of the parents have completed it now and returned it to us for the end of the year, taking a look at their growth. The DECA is called, that's short name for it. It looks at developing healthy relationships, it looks at learning to regulate emotions, and it looks at showing initiative. It's aligned to the second step curriculum, and that's why Petals chose that, and that's why we really liked the DECA, because the questions that we're being asked to look at for the students really aligns to that curriculum and what the students are being taught social, emotional, behaviorally. So part of that Petals grant, that's a sample of the DECA. Part of the Petals grant did provide the second step kits for all of our pre-K teachers. It provided professional development, not just for our teachers, but for our classroom aides, and it provided that again this summer for any aides that weren't there for part of the initial training, or if there was questions or things that came up after implementing the program for a year. So it was really was really good. And again, the coach is there every other week, so it's nice. So you can see some sample questions. So part of this is just they don't want to come in, do 2 years, and then leave and be done with this. So Sustainability Action Plan, I actually just got in the mail today. It's about 4 pages long. I met with the director of Petals, and I met with the coach and the teachers, and we talked about what are we doing now that we could sustain. Now we have the second step kits. The teachers are trained. They are actually providing training again this summer for anyone that's new to the system that wants a refresher. They're providing that free of charge to our school so we can sustain that second step curriculum and its implementation. And other things that I picked up and started doing administratively, some of the things that the teachers have implemented in their classroom that we know that we can sustain over time and just continue to improve. Really looked at the behavioral data. We talked about, all right, where are our students really kind of falling short? Maybe where's a second step lesson that we need to revisit maybe a couple of times? Maybe that language we need to make sure is happening not just in the classroom, but in the gym, the cafeteria, across the board. So that is just a quick overview of what happened with Petals and some of our data that we're collecting for our students. Yeah.
Sorry, do you want questions at the end, or?
If you want to ask something about pre-K or whatever you want to do.
I'm just curious with the Petals data, you know, the graphs are a little bit all over the board, as we would expect maybe for that age group. But I wonder if there is any analysis on potential correlation for different events. I mean, just in that quick look, post winter break, post a 2-week April break. So do we use that to inform calendaring?
It's something that was gratifying as a teaching staff to be like, yeah, we know that things are a little bit rough those times, to actually see the data support that. Like, yeah, you know, those are times that, like you said, the dips in winter break. But that was what was nice about that data, is that we could see the ups and downs of it and things that we knew are where we might have to do a little bit more implementation as far as behavioral support, or some of our expectations might need to be a little bit different for transitions and whatnot during those times. Because some transitions are hard for any of us, so it's especially hard for our 4-year-olds.
Do we think about that though, even in discussion with structure of our calendar and some of those types of things, which, you know, we.
Actually, as part of our discussion, we talked about our calendar, some of that came up,
Okay, curious,
half
yes,
days and
thanks.
whatnot,
So to clarify, you're seeing dips at the end of a break, it was restarting school after breaks?
For some of the kids, not for everybody, but for some of the kids, and for different reasons. Some of the kids are really excited, they have a different kind of break, and again, it goes back to some of the trauma some of our kids are going through, and some of the things that are happening at home. But yeah, you can see right here's a good, it was very interesting to look at that. After the kids have been here, you know, the disruptive behaviors, if we have a continuous amount of time in school without a break, you
Or
know,
the
they do
length of
better.
the break, or the half days, or,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting.
It is interesting, and it just, you know, verifies some of the things that we thought we knew, but now we have some data to support it. So, good question.
And just touching on the calendar piece, one thing that was part of the conversation at Wheelock, but different district-wide when we started talking about the February break versus spring break and divided 2-week break. And one of the things I didn't really anticipate, and I don't know if I looked at it like this from a secondary teacher point of view, but a lot of people really referenced that long haul from right after winter break at the beginning of January all the way to spring break, and them feeling like that is really the time of year where they make the most progress, where it's really uninterrupted, for the most part, a few days here and there, but uninterrupted instructional time, that they really feel like sort of the transition in the school year from still kind of getting up to speed in that grade level to really starting to make progress and move forward as a student, so.
So our kindergarten collection of data, we use FastBridge, we use the early literacy benchmark screening, and we look at the letter sounds, some blending, some word segmentation, and sight words. It is a one-on-one authentic assessment of skills, which is why we like this early literacy assessment. We didn't have an RTI provider this year, so I actually did the assessments and got to sit one-on-one with each of the students. And the nice thing about this is, again, they have to show the skill. It's, you know, they have to be able to send out the words. They have to be able to identify the letters. So we really know which ones they know, what they don't know. And the errors are almost just as important as what they do know. So we know where to intervene and where to teach the kids. So we have that early literacy information. The teachers also do what we call the SABERS. I mentioned that in my last presentation, which is a teacher checklist. Again, they don't fill this out until after they know the kids for about a month. They do it again in January to see how they're doing, and they're doing it again about right now. You can look up where they are, so. You can see there, it's done, the early literacy is done 3 times a year. And this aligns very well with the CKLA reading curriculum, because we know that CKLA is really backs the science of reading, that phonics instruction, phonemic awareness, phonological awareness. And we also use the Engage New York math curriculum.
So I got a question in
Yeah.
regards to the teachers filling out the understanding to a child's ability at the first part of the school year and then at the middle part of the school year. Do we have a chart on that?
So when they fill, do we have a chart on that? Yeah, I think it's
Is
coming
that-
up. Yeah,
okay.
yep, it's coming. Go on. So this is some of the early reading data. So this is where I wish I could say everything's rosy and things are great, but I really felt like it was important to be real in this presentation and really give you a glimpse of what we feel the pandemic impact had on our students' early learning. Because not only the kids in kindergarten had a half-day UBK, so they were in school about 2 hours a day. So you can imagine 4-year-olds getting there, having breakfast, going outside to play, having a little calendar, snack, and going home. So there really was an opportunity to do a lot of early literacy, early learning. We also all had masks on. We had the age of quarantines. So the students all know, how many times were kids sent home for 10 days because, they had to be, they were sick or what was happening. So, what we really saw in this, you can see that 82% of our kids, word segmenting really looks at an early literacy of phonological awareness and phonemic awareness. Our kids are getting there. They really are mastering that skill. The next level skill, and I'm sorry, Missy is a first grade teacher, what we really are seeing is that they're struggling with the phonics. They aren't quite ready to get there yet. They've got the behaviors down. We spend a lot of time on social emotional learning. We spend a lot of time really making kids feel safe. We'd spend a lot of time teaching them how to be a student, to be in school all day, and we were able to spend the time on rhyming, on syllables and words, and a word made of sounds, like what? So those cool things that we all take for granted, but 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds don't know they have to be taught. So what we saw was only about 35% of our students really mastered phonics, and we really want to see that also above 80%. So the data, it's good to know and good to have, so we know we're going to intervene. This is all right. This really helps us know this is where we need to start, finish the year at kindergarten, but start in first grade, really looking at the phonics. What our hope is that most of the kids are ready to read by the time they leave kindergarten. Some are, and some are reading, but a lot of our kids are going to need that phonics instruction. So you can see, yeah.
Obviously this is to be happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
So, what are kind of, from a research perspective or from that academic perspective is, how do we make that handoff to first grade and elementary and,
Right.
Actually, it's a perfect timing. I think our presentation
Perfect,
and
yeah.
Amy's
Yeah,
presentation.
that's what I was
Great.
glad that was
Okay.
happening, yeah.
Super.
Because that's why the data is so important. Because it's not a gut feeling that Amy Piper had, it's not a gut feeling that Mark has, it's really shown, all right, this is what the kids can do, this is what they can't do, this is where we have to swoop in and really teach those specific skills. The nice thing too is that this is also individual. We can see for each particular student, where is their skill set. So I deleted the student names, obviously for confidentiality, but you can see each kindergarten teacher, which then goes to the first grade teachers, can see, all right, this student has mastered phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, is reading. They can really see differentiated where their skills are and how to do that small group instruction.
Will that change classroom, how we're putting kids together
It
and
is a
using
big
this
piece of
data for the?
Yeah, it is a big piece of that. Really looking to make sure that we have kids that are grouped together, for teachers and for kids. They want to be together with somebody else that they can, align with and collaborate with. Go to the next one. So again, individual student reports for each teacher. They can see specifically what skills they have, what they know, where they struggled. Go to the next one. So what does this mean? The fast bridge screening, quarterly CKLA assessments, really are indicating skills of phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, but improvement is needed in basic phonics. The need for reading intervention, we were unable to have reading intervention this year at kindergarten because the need to add a teacher because of COVID and class size. So it's like, oh my gosh, the time where you really need to hit them the hardest, we just weren't able to. So they didn't receive that reading intervention this year, and the library access. Instruction and reading curriculum is taught with fidelity at Tier 1. We know that that's happening, we know across the board that's happening, but we need to do some more for some of these kids that need that special instruction.
Yes. How, with regard to library access, how do the kids at Wheelock access a library?
So right now the teachers all have their own little personal libraries in their classrooms. Erica DeAngelis is our teacher assistant for library. She comes down once a week and reads books to the kids. But we're working on that with our admin team to hopefully get a library in place for the kids for next year. So yeah, looking forward to coming on that.
Is there any possibility of having BOCES be a part of that by bringing books down, because they transport things constantly?
I'm glad you said that. I met with Liz Gruber last week about that possibility, and she said there's actually kits, like literacy kits that could be ordered from BOCES
Right.
that she's going to meet with the kindergarten team and access as part of the library that's down there, because, you know, obviously I'm going to be able to build a library like this in 1 year, but she thought the BOCES would really be able to supplement it.
Well, I mean, their books and what they're going to be, you know, referring to is going to be a smaller group.
Yeah, it's the primary reading, right?
So, so that would really encompass a need of a room, not necessarily the size.
Yeah.
So, do you see a room there available?
We're hoping that one of the classrooms, because we're going down a kindergarten section, can be used for that.
Okay,
That's the plan right now, is that one of that classroom be used for that.
all right. And what do you need as far as this intervention piece for the reading?
That's the other piece that we've been talking about as an administrative team, is looking at replacing, Timothy Carlantoni is retiring, and taking that and hiring a reading teacher in that place. So we'd be able to provide those services for those students.
Okay. Is there anybody available at the elementary that could be
Yeah, possibly.
used?
Yeah, we haven't posted that yet, so as soon as we're able to, we can internally, maybe post it externally, so then we will know if anybody's interested and take it from there.
Is that because you need one fewer kindergarten?
Yeah, at this
Okay.
point, it looks like our numbers of COVID regulations, yeah.
Okay, so you want to replace it with the reading teacher? And then has there ever been a library there?
Yeah.
Oh, there was.
That one was since we moved down with kindergarten, but, yeah, I remember when these guys were all in kindergarten, there was a big library there. Yeah.
But there were some grades at that time.
There was, pre-K to 2, yeah. Going. So the next is Sabres data for kindergarten, and that, I think was what you were asking about, Tom, was looking at the growth of students with their social and emotional behavior checklist, and this is what was filled out by the teachers. So I'll give you an example of that in just a second, but you can see the growth that the students made. The first chart is district, so it's really the second chart. I forgot how to crop it. Really looks at Wheelock in kindergarten and shows you, I'm trying to look at the numbers, from, I think this is 28% to 33%. Kids went from at risk or some risk to low risk. Next one. So this is what it looks like for an individual student report. The teachers are able to get back and be able to see exactly where the areas are that the kids might be having some difficulty, but we also can then measure growth to the winter and then to the spring to see if they're making some progress.
Do you have currently, or are you in need of personnel down there?
Right, this year we've gotten, because we were able to hire the school social worker, Cassie Farrell, has been coming down on Fridays, which is great, and then Judith Isabella, our counselor, was able to increase a day, so we have somebody there Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays.
Okay, because as a school, we're really not privileged to the administrative team discussions. So you're bringing this here, and it's kind of raising questions in my thought process as to why haven't we implemented some of these pieces. So, you know, I guess more so the question would be is what do you need?
Yeah. Having Petals was great. Having that behavioral coach come in is great. Because she was able to be in the classroom, she actually knew the students, she was able to have that one-on-one attention. Having Cassie join our staff has been great because she knows the resources across the county, and she's been able to answer some of that. So I feel like at this point, we're pretty good. Knowing next year, and I have it on what are we doing, we're adding that school psych intern that will be at WheeLock a couple of days a week as well. So I feel like every day we'll have somebody with social emotional background to be able to support our students and our families. So that
So
was
this
such
is
a great.
identifying the pieces.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you've put in a request for what's needed to address
How
it.
can we meet the needs then? Also, the parents as teachers, and I have it on a slide coming up, program has Allison Gallardo at our school every day. She's not there all day, but she's then able to connect with families that really are going through trauma and need the support at home. And she has an office at WheeLock. So she's a great liaison to be able to say, the parents will call and say, hey, we're having this crisis. As minimal as it may sound, as needing a car seat, or as big as needing housing. Allison can come in and let us know what's happening. And it's been able to build that bridge between school and home and that trust factor. That we're all on the same page, that we're all in this together. And we're here to support you, so Allison's been great. So a couple of those pieces we've been able to put into place. So again, the second step curriculum is another big piece that we've been able to implement. And we really taken a look at the kids coming in at the fall and the fact that they've been wearing masks, they've been through a pandemic. We saw how much they really need the social, emotional, behavioral focus. And we spent a lot of time on it because a child can't learn if they're worried, if they're going through trauma, if they're sick, if they don't know what's expected of them. And so we took the time to really make sure that they had those behaviors under control before we started really into the academics. And it was worth it. It was really worth it. So what does this data tell us? Trauma is impacting our students. We have a substantial need for social emotional behavioral interventions. I don't know if you've heard of ACEs, the Adverse Child Experience Scale. It's significant for many, many children. They can't focus on academics until their basic needs are met. So what is our plan? So that hopefully this answers your question you just asked. We have a school psych intern next year that's coming in at PhD level, school psych intern. We have the Parents as Teachers program continuing. We have a school counselor coming down twice a week now. Our social workers there 1 day a week. We have the second step curriculum that we're doing with Fidelity at pre-K and K. Reading intervention, we have planned for those tier 2 and tier 3 kids that really need that significant help. And remember, it's a lot easier to help a 5-year-old whose gap is this big versus when they're at Paula or Darren's level and the gap is this big. So to really be able to come in and help as many kids as possible is fabulous. And then the MTSS process will continue, so we can continue to analyze the student data and teachers can use it for interventions.
So all of those items are in progress, happening with the just needing to confirm the reading intervention resource as, how we're gonna use that,
Right.
that FTE
Yeah.
associate, okay,
Yep.
all that's in place. Great.
Any other questions?
So you have a lot of data on individual students and also groups. Is there anything that would go back to a parent to say your individual student may need help with this? And along with that, is there anything that would go back home to say, as a group, we're realizing that there's a lot of stressors on kids. These are suggestions of how we can generally address this so that the parents are aware, because we have so much data, but we only see the kids from 9 to 3.
Right.
And
Yeah, so the teachers do fill out progress reports for the kids and they send them home. They meet with the parents one-on-one for parent-teacher conferences and go through those skill checklists. And then they do it again every quarter, that they have those exact skills to take a look at and see the growth that they've made. And it's that specific. What letters do they know? What letters don't they know? What sight words do they know? What sight words do you need to work on at home? So, yeah, they do get all of that information. And I do a parent newsletter quarterly that also gives suggestions, gives community resources and different things that are happening.
Thank you very
anything
much.
else?
Thanks.
Thanks, Mrs. Piper. We're also very happy to have Mr. Drowninger here tonight, as usual, but also Mrs. Carmelo. We appreciate your time and energy and being willing to come share some ideas. And, you know, for us as administrators on the board, there's nothing better than hearing from a practitioner in the trenches every day with the students. So we appreciate it, and we'll turn it over to you guys if we're ready.
Sure.
Presentation wise. That's some quick work there, Mr. Drown.
You like that? Fast typing, under pressure, look at that. Nothing to worry about. Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks again, Missy, for coming here tonight. So earlier in the year, we did a brief introduction to the board about our iReady program that was in a pilot last year, and this year we rolled out into full implementation. We didn't have a lot of data at the point, it was early in the school year, and now we've had 3 rounds of data collection, and I'm excited to share the results because it shows some significant growth building-wide. And then I brought Missy here. She's an expert.
Been here a couple years.
She's been here 2 years. She's been teaching reading for
34 years.
But what makes Missy so great is she continues to grow. She's attended a few professional development sessions this year, and she continues to improve her practice when it comes to reading instruction. And then we'll drill down and look at her classroom, and then look at some individual student data, and she can talk more about what it looks like at Florida Elementary School. So, real quick, the overview of what iReady was an online reading program that first determines the student's need, personalizes the learning, and then monitors the progress of all the students. And it's broken down into 2 parts. There's the diagnostic test, which students take 3 times a year, and then it takes the information that it learns from that and personalizes the instruction. And it addresses different domains that Missy can talk about. So earlier in the year, I didn't have the data to show you, but I do now. So at the Florida Elementary School, all of our students take this online diagnostic assessment at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. So our fall diagnostic for the entire building is displayed on the screen right here. What you see is the heavy shaded green, and then the bright green is where we want our kids. The yellow, it means they're 1 or 2 grades below, and red is significantly below where they should be. So this is where our students were when they entered the year. Then our teachers take information that they learned from this diagnostic, and they personalize their instruction. Missy makes small groups that she'll talk about, and she delivers instructions at the kids' level and helps them to grow. This was in September, early October. Then in the middle of winter, in January, we took the diagnostic again. And what we like to see there is the increase in the amount of green from the fall, and we're shrinking our reds, and we're also shrinking our yellows. So this is showing that our students are growing because of the instruction that we're giving them. And then I'm very thrilled to show the spring assessment, which we just took this past week, which shows a significant increase in where our kids should be. So when you put all of these things next to each other, the top one is what our students walked in at, then the middle of the year, and where we are now. So I think that is, Missy deserves a round of applause. So as a principal, this is good to see because it shows that our instruction is meeting kids where they are at, we're delivering it with fidelity, and we see the growth results right here. So I'm not the expert at reading teaching, but Missy is. So what I want to do next is overall our summary is we've seen measurable growth, and there are more students now that are at or above grade level than where they were at the beginning of the year. So that makes That was pretty good.
Right, yeah, great.
So now as a classroom, Missy can kind of drill down and see her students individually where they are, and then she can talk more about these things called different domains that she'll teach and kind of things like that. So do you want to put through, or do you want to?
No, yeah, I'll let
Go
you
ahead.
quick
You go ahead.
as I talk, I'll tell you when.
Yeah, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'll tell, yeah, so this is my individual class,
This is your beginning of it, yeah.
the beginning of the year. So it's literacy night, I guess, tonight at the board meeting. So there are 6 components that you need for any effective reading program. You need to have phonemic awareness in your program, you need to have phonics, you need to have fluency, you need to have text comprehension, you need to have vocabulary, and you need to have written expression. Doesn't matter what program that research-based, you have to have those 6 things in your reading program. So iReady, I've taught different grades. The majority of my career of these few years that I've been here has been in teaching first grade, but I've taught other grades. And in the past, Fredonia has had iReady to support our reading program, but we only offered it for Tier 3 kids and sometimes Tier 2 kids. And so I'm thrilled and excited because it's for all of the students. And I think, and I have one student here that I do have permission that I'm going to share that is a top student, and why we need it for all the students, not just the lower students. So iReady, the domains in iReady support all but 2 of the components for a good research-based reading program. The only thing that iReady doesn't have is fluency and written expression, which fluency, I don't really know, but you can monitor fluency on programs, and we do that with our FastBridge. But there's not really a program per se that helps teach fluency, and then written expression, it does not, deal with that. So what I have found is that having all those components, and especially because first grade is such a unique age, is that so many computer programs don't support because the kids can't read. And so the program reads to them until as they work through the program and as they become readers, then it takes that part away, and then they're reading on their own. And you when the kids get to that, because they'll be like, my volume's not working. No, you're at the point now where you have to read. It's not reading it to you. And like I said, I've used this for many years in different ways. This year is the first year that we've had it for all of the students, which I'm very appreciative of the board putting that money towards that, because it is expensive. And Mark will show you how the kids have improved in my class as the year has gone. So it allows me to then assess what I teach in my classroom, because I can go ahead with my reading program and think I'm doing great and assessing the kids, but what you have to know is, can they apply that? I can tell you, hey, I'm great, look at, they're learning everything that I'm teaching them, but if then they can't go out and apply that knowledge, then, have I really taught them? So this program, iReady, gives you that feedback. It tells you, okay, is my instruction in my reading groups, is it effective? Because can they now apply this, in iReady? And it's not easy. It's challenging.
And this is Missy's beginning of the year results. She had, a lot of students below grade level. And her middle of the year, so she showed significant growth in a short period of time. And then her spring assessment was, just outstanding. So, all of her students are at or above grade level. And that, like Missy's hit on there, this is a good self-check for a teacher to say, hey, and is it working? What I'm doing in my classroom with my small group of kiddos, is it working? And when she pushes the kids to the computers to apply the work that they just did in small group, this is a check for Missy, and she can drill down and look at those domains and say, oh, maybe this kiddo needs a little bit more instruction on this, and that'll help her form her groups. So that's an impressive amount of growth there. And then even more, and this is her, beginning, middle, and end of the year, so it shows her growth as a teacher too. And then she can drill down and we can look at individual students. So as a classroom teacher, you can take a look at one student and you can look at their assessment data. And this was the beginning of the year for one particular kiddo in her class who came in at the kindergarten level.
Right, yeah, four domains, she was at the K level.
And as the instruction throughout the year progressed, she showed significant gains. and this is the middle of the year assessment. So she started the year kindergarten level, although she was sitting in a first grade classroom. And now at the end of the year, she is in a couple of those things. She's in the grade 2 level and grade 3 level for comprehension of literature. So this is a significant amount of growth for one student who now entered the year below, but is now above grade level, and we can support that with the students. So, but some of the kids like to write about iReady too,
Yes,
so
they
Missy.
do. Yeah, one other
Yeah.
thing is that what's really important is that iReady should not replace a reading program. It clearly should be used as a support and can, in my opinion, can be used very effectively as a support. So you've heard from me, so I asked my kids, you know, tell me, what do you think about iReady? So I brought a few journal entries, and one student said, I really like iReady because it's very educational and teaches us the true meaning of reading. It teaches us chapter books in words and their meanings and other things too. Then I had another student say, I love iReady. It makes me smart, it makes me think about reading, which is key, thinking about reading, thinking about what you're reading, and science, and it makes me feel happy. Because another plus about iReady is that the literature is fiction and nonfiction. So that's very important too. And one more, I love doing iReady in first grade because I like how I learn so much, and I like when we do the iReady test when we do word journal. So one of the things in first grade is a little word journal.
So you've heard from the principal, the teacher, the students, and that's just like our brief end of the year summary to iReady, and we thank the board for your support of this program.
Definitely.
And we're looking forward to next year for expanding this into math as well. So there's a math part of this which will support our students who, you know, need a little bit of extra help or who need to grow and be pushed. So that's all we have for you tonight, unless you have questions for us.
You know, first of all, it's great because it's individually tailored at their pacing, which kids don't get lost when they're in a group situation. What percentage of iReady are they, like out of your reading program, what percentage are they on iReady versus doing other things?
Well, we have a minimum minute that the program has recommended that the kids spend on it.
So our building-wide expectation this year is that all students work in iReady for 40 minutes a week. And then they're with the teacher in a small group setting for significantly more than that. But so that's it, just 40 minutes a week, but it you know, it helps us in a lot of ways.
So it's not like it's 50%.
So all of our students, so 100% of the students get 40 minutes a week, every student.
Right, and how many minutes do they get out?
Oh, for total for ELA, well, if you teach 90 minutes a day.
Gosh.
So in general, a classroom teacher could teach around 90 minutes a day of ELA instruction. So we're just 40 minutes a week. So it's not a large percentage, but
So they're getting this much gain out of just 40 minutes.
yeah, and like we said, it's a blend of the teacher, you know what I mean, providing the vast majority of the instruction, and the program just kind of helping us in different ways to apply the knowledge that they've learned.
And get practice with key components of an effective reading program. Because that's a challenge at first grade, is what is the rest of the class doing while you're working with, you know, a group of small children, as you can see from the previous presentation, that, you know, social and emotional, you know, you're dealing, you know, with all of that. So, you know, some teachers implement the 40 minutes at different times. I have 2 days in particular where I divide it up, and so they spend 2 dedicated days a time on doing their iReady, but some other teachers could do it like when they're finished with their independent work, then maybe they would go on and do some iReady. That would be like teacher decision, but we're, you know, trying to hit that 40-minute, actually I think it's 40 to 60 minutes. The program even wants to push it out to 60 for the kids to do it.
So when did you start using it now? It's you know, grade level wide, but you started years ago with it?
Yeah, I would say when I was teaching 3rd grade, which has been, what, 10
I was
years
gonna
ago?
say 10 years, I
I
think
think
you
it's about
started
10
using it.
years ago was the first time I used it. We had an RTI person that was working in the middle school that came to our building, and she had had experience with it, and so she introduced it. to us, and at that time, that's when we were only servicing really tier 3 kids, unless we could steal some slots from the middle school. We would, put some other kids, on it. And I was impressed with it then. And then when I learned that it was available for first grade, we were still using it, but still just on that limited basis to just try and give those low kids the push. But it really is good, because you can see the student that I brought as an example, she's a top student, but started at a kindergarten level, but look at how far that program was able to assist her. She's like grade 3 in one domain and maxed out in others. So, it allows to hit for that population too, that I think sometimes is kind of, forgotten.
Yeah. Well, thank you for pioneering.
Oh, well, it was great. It was
Much appreciated.
good.
I really appreciate that we had these two presentations together, because I think what it really, all is not lost, right? If we can see these gains that were made, and so those kindergarten students, they'll come in the fall, they'll do this iReady as a first grader. I guess that, is there targeting, like, how much gap could be closed in first grade? What are we closing in first versus, like, this is a multi-year step, and maybe we're not there yet, but, I mean, this data is fantastic.
The key is the yellow and the red. You do not want kids, and it's research. It's not just, myself just teaching all these years. It's research. You don't want them to hit 2 years behind. Once they hit 2 years behind, it becomes almost impossible to catch them up.
Okay.
So now is the time that we have to hit all of this. And you have to spend a lot of time on literacy. One of my favorite people that I follow, that I call my best friend, Anita Archer, she says, cut the fluff. If you want kids to read, you have to spend time on reading. You have to. And I don't even know how many minutes I actually spend on literacy, but I think that my data then says to me it's not too much, because I've made this progress with COVID and with these kids coming in with, the gaps that they do. I mean, we're still, dealing with that.
So, I think we're talking about needing the reading intervention at Wheelock for kindergarten, but those kindergartens are becoming first graders. So do we have the resources that will be able to support that gap moving to the elementary school?
We talked about that.
So what we are shifting our roles. We're gonna, because of COVID, we did what our district did and pulled some of our intervention specialists to have classrooms to lower class sizes. We're gonna make a shift next year. And we're going to pull some people back into the support role of an interventionist, and our building is going to have 2 people as dedicated reading specialists, and they'll pull our tier 3 kids every single day for some more direct, individualized instruction. And at our elementary level, we do place an emphasis on grades 1 and 2, because we really, like Missy said, we have to hit them
You
early.
have to get them by 3rd grade.
Yeah, so
After 3rd
the
grade.
majority of our time is spent at that grade level. But we don't forget about our 3rd and 4th grade kiddos. We really try and hit our younger readers hard and early.
Great. It's really exciting.
So your results are very impressive. Okay,
Thank you.
I'm very pleased with that. Do you ever get concerns, or do you ever have a student that may show they're lacking, and teachers are sitting and no, this kid has had an off day or something else, where the results aren't appropriate for that student, meaning they did better or possibly worse?
Well, it goes kind of with like what Dr. Zilias was saying, like, the vacations and the different times that you might have off. Same thing there. Depending on when you're doing your assessment, maybe you might see a dip. If you see like several kids in your class that are taking that dip, then maybe you'd say, hey, okay, this isn't a good time because it's right back from break. But like fluency, for example, that's something you're going to see they're gonna read a lot of words per minute, one benchmark that you're doing, and then the next one, oh, you're gonna see them dip a little bit. There are certain areas in reading where you're going to see that. We're looking for kids that aren't making that progress, or that are continuing to go down, because you'll see, like if I had a student that took a test, for example, too quickly in iReady, they're flagged. And so that tells me, so then I can go in and ask the powers to be, hey, can we, reset this? Can they take it over? They went through it too quickly, or maybe I want to, just monitor that next time or whatnot. So there are certain things, but kids aren't always gonna go like this. Reading, there's so many moving parts in reading. Math is much more, black and white and whatever, but reading, there's a lot of moving parts. We're looking for those trends if the kids are, but yeah, they're gonna have bad days for sure,
And I'm sorry, Caitlin. Do you create a culture of reading, a defined, determined, saying this is how we're going to create a culture where our students have a desire to read, where you're providing time, you're providing incentives, you're saying that it's cool that you're reading when students see you. Do you create that culture?
There's my students for iReady, they have a card, and every time they pass a test, they put a sticker on their card. So their big thing is that they have all these cards stapled together for all these tests that they passed. But just in general, as teachers, you have to create that culture, and no matter what you're doing. And it's really important with early literacy, I do a lot of other things that aren't related to this, that, emphasizes the importance of literacy and why it's important. We talk about why it's important.
A lot of teachers do things in the classroom, and then as a building, we do things as well. We celebrate our millionaire milestones. If you read a million words, you get your name on the announcements and things like that. In March, we did the picture book, the March Madness book challenge. We select the book of the year each year. For the past 3 years, we've done that. And we have other building-wide incentives. When kids go on spring break, we throw out an incentive. If they read so many books, they're eligible for an additional recess with snacks provided and things like that. So we do try and celebrate reading in general.
Does it go to the teachers and the administrator, where the kids see you read?
Yeah, we've read a few books on the video announcements. Dr. Zillax has been in reading books this year and things like that as well.
Dr. Z, huh?
Yeah, he's very good at reading to students too. He gets them participating and everything. Yeah.
Good, great.
Yeah, I was wondering, Mrs. Piper talked about the parents and their role at the early childhood level. And, they always say if parents read to kids at home that they'll have better literacy. And I'm wondering if you kind of try to assess that with the kids, and if there's any role that the community could be playing, because we certainly have people who could form groups like Big Brother, Boys and Girls Club style things.
Yes. Another program that I really like that supports the parent, a child role in reading together, which in the middle school, the kids groan about it, because I had middle school students here too, is AR, which is the Accelerated Reader Program. I mean, they don't want to see it in the middle school, but in the elementary, they love it. They can't, that's part of the goal that we set in our building, is that we have a grade level goal, 100,000 for first grade, 200,000 for second, 300,000 for third grade, and the goals are lofty to reach that. We just ended June 3rd was our cutoff. I mean, the goals to read that many words for young kids is lofty for a reason, because they need to be engaged in reading as much as they can. So that's something that the parents participate in, because at our level, I have a group, like, Mrs. Pepper talked about, the teachers have their own little library. Well, everyone has their little library, and I send home level books, at their level, as close to their level, and their parents read with them, read to them, and then they take an AR test. going towards, working towards our building goal for AR. So another important program at the primary level, because it gets them reading. They have to have accountability. AR is accountability for the parents, because they know what the goal is, and it's accountability for the students too, because then that's their beginning of understanding comprehension. They start to make that connection, that, oh, I'm reading this for a reason. I have to remember something.
Thanks. Are there some families though that can't give that support?
There are some families that don't give that support, that the kids don't make that goal, but we have aides that sit and read with the kids. And then now at this point in the year, when they're reading on their own, one of the choices in the classroom can be independent reading with a book at their level. And so then they can take those AR tests, even in first grade, independently now. Once we get them, reading, that's the key, so.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Guys?
Thank you.
Thank you.
She hasn't eaten dinner yet, so.
Okay,
You're good to go.
It's great to have these presentations, and I can tell that you're excited about this.
Very excited.
And Ms. Piper, I can tell you're excited about this. This is great, and I think that's critical for our students' growth. So,
Money well spent.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the approval minutes from last meeting, and that was actually a couple of meetings here. The May 3rd meeting, the district vote for May 17th, and the special meeting for May 31st. Can I have a motion to bring all three of those to the floor, please? Ms. Hahn and Ms. Alford. Any questions, concerns, edits?
Yeah, the Tuesday, May 17th, under section 6, where it says board members present, that's blank. I don't know if that needs to have people listed.
Yeah, we can
I would suggest that we table this one, okay, approve the other two, correct this, but thank you for catching that, and then bring it up to the next meeting. That would be an issue.
Sounds good.
So, I think that what we're gonna do, Ms. Hahn, are we okay to modify your motion to take off the May 17th minutes? And Ms. Powell-Fordney, are you okay?
Yes.
In your second. So we're gonna modify that, just for the time being, and then we're going to just, I know nothing about Robert's Rules and Orders, but I believe that that's the correct way to deal with this.
Well, I noticed something on these minutes too that I really didn't want to draw any attention to, but it made it look like I had more votes than Mr. Johnston in the election, when we all know that's not true.
I thought we were tired.
Well, actually, that is okay because that was preliminary.
Okay,
And then we're doing the official
got it.
in, I'm gonna say 10 minutes. So we'll, yes. But thank you for that also.
I'm also just gonna assume, which I don't know, that since there was no resolution attached to that meeting, maybe the attendance is not required. But
We will,
better be safe than sorry.
we'll check that
Sure.
and make sure it's right. Okay. So I'm going to ask if there are no other issues, all those in favor of approving the May 3rd and the May 31st meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And then if I could have a motion to table the meeting from May 17th until we're sure, okay?
Second.
And we're going to, Dr. Wright, you're going to keep track of the table, correct? Wonderful. Okay. And that was Mr. Marshall and Ms. Gullo. Okay. All those in favor of tabling the May 17th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful. Great, thank you. Next, we have financial treasurer's report and a review of the budget status report for April.
So,
Mr. Forbes.
this time of year, April, May, and June, you begin to track in the budget status report the areas of concern and areas where you're doing good. So I just randomly picked a few things out. So for example, legal, we budgeted 35,000, we're tracking at 11, so that's good. Electric services, we're actually...
Where's that?
That's page 2, fourth way down the page, 1320.
So that's not part of the dashboard, it's part of the report?
This is the budget status report, correct?
Yes, okay.
So that area we're good. Take a look at electric, bearing in mind that this is through the end of April, so we haven't paid the April bill yet. We're already tracking at 223,000 and we budgeted 220. So that's obviously a concern, and probably is not unexpected. You take a look at also at areas like high-cost special ed, out-of-district placement. We're well in the hole on that one. We budgeted 100,000 there, and we're currently...
What page?
That would be page 9, top of the page. We budgeted $100,000 and we've already spent 218 through the end of April. So that's a concern, but the good part is that we do get aid back on those students, which wouldn't have been accounted for in the excess cost aid projections that the state gave because they didn't know that the students were attending it for our district at that point. So you look at those different kinds of things. And then farther on, page 12, about 2/3 of the way down, you have transportation, code 5510, which is fuel. So through the end of April, we had budgeted 71,000, and as you would expect, we're already over at 79,000 because of the price of diesel fuel. So those are the things that you kind of take a look at this report as things progress.
And as far as the special education going from 100,000 budgeted to 218, I'm assuming that for the last 3 weeks of the school year, that will, well, it's more than that actually, because this is as of April, so you've got all of May, all of June. It's going to be significantly higher than the 218.
Yeah, you'll be over 300
Okay.
with that goal.
And, okay. Okay. And you, I guess that's why we had done the dashboard, and you're kind of making a estimation for the last 2 months based off this report. And you're feeling pretty, you're feeling okay. I won't say pretty good, I'll say.
Well, you don't want to be in the hole, so. But there's, like I said, there's causes there. We had extra students move in, and the aid back on, that's not accounted for, so it's not horrible.
Okay,
You would hope that all the codes aren't tracking that way, which they're not, so.
correct, okay. Any concerns, questions?
I sense you're not mashing the panic button, so.
I'm not hitting the panic.
Okay.
Okay, and the revenue status report?
Yeah, the revenue status report, we got the final payment of our taxes from the county, which typically happens in late March or early April. That's the unpaid balance we get made whole. So it's about 800,000 of taxes, and they go into the business of collecting that. Part of that also includes the penalties, interest that we get off of that. So you can see, fourth one down, we got 28,000 interest and penalties this month. the page, or 3/4 way down the page, basic formula, we got 437,000 of general aid in April.
Any questions on that?
John, in regards to aid, we got an update on our email on the 3rd of June from Danielle Gracio as far as a conclusion to the legislators. And it states that we get the state funded an extra $2.1 billion increase in aid. Can you speak to that or know anything of it?
That wasn't anything in addition to what we already knew. That was what they did when they approved the budget. And so that's where we had the 3% increase in foundation aid, and other districts had the larger increase.
Okay. So there's other pieces that are falling underneath this $2.1 billion. Is there anything, you know, there's facilities, transportation, pieces on government relations. You know, what are you looking at trying to secure additional to what they've funded us?
Well, the aid package that we get is based upon what we spend categorically. So things like the transportation and debt service is already in place. It's going to be based on the actual payments that we make. And then they'll just calculate it out through their formula. So there's no real revenue grab that I'm aware of there.
Okay. So we can't formally make any requests for any of this funding?
No.
And we can't reach out to our legislators and ask?
But you can always ask, but they're going to base it on what we
Sure, I
categorically spend.
completely understand that, but, you know, additional aid to show a deficit as compared to other districts, and the amount of aid we're receiving, again, a deficit per student compared to other districts. So, you know, I mean, is that worth an effort?
It wouldn't hurt, I'm sure, just to put that out there.
Yeah, we do this, part of our superintendent group is a legislative committee and a legislative initiative. We do two different things. One of the things that we do is draft letters as a group and send. Other times, depending on your district and level of need, sometimes that goes from individual districts. We've had less, I think, areas where we could maybe demonstrate that we're either in need, and especially compared to some other districts in the area, that we have been neglected as a district. But we're always looking for ways to make that connection. Number one, build those relationships. There's also been several legislative dinners, lunches that I've attended and other board members have been part of to try to make that connection. But I think any time that we can make a reasonable argument, we're willing to do so.
Okay. So, as far as you're concerned, we're flush.
I think it would be tough to make a strong case as we look at some of our information compared to other districts.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Then if I could have a motion to bring the treasurer's report for April to the floor.
So,
Ms. Paul Ford.
Second.
Ms. Keller. Mr. Forbes, any comments on that?
Nope, everything balanced again, so good.
The left and the right are equal, huh?
They're in sync.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, I guess you can't argue with that, Mr. Forbes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the release of the 2022-2023 purchase orders. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. And a second.
Second.
Mr. Johnston. Okay. Mr. Ziliak, just an explanation.
Yeah, and I'll let chime in here, John chime in as well. You know, this is an annual resolution, and really what this begins is the process for looking at next school year, knowing that we're about a month away. And beginning that paperwork process puts us in a position to be ready to go to move forward in July. So this is a little bit of a proactive move on the part of districts to gear up for the next school year, which is already on our minds, although some students might not be thinking about it, and might most likely be somewhere else for their education next year. But anything you want to add to that, Mr.
Well,
Polk?
you got it.
Any questions? Concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of a resolution to accept the official budget vote and election results. And I believe that this is corrected this time, so that those numbers here are appropriate. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Mr. Hawk, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Any questions, comments? I did, if my math is correct, this was a 78% approval on the budget. Yes versus no. Not bad. Any other questions? Has it ever been that high?
There probably was one or two along the way.
You think so?
Yeah.
0%?
It was one of the lower turnouts.
I don't know if we had it that high then. Yeah. Because the numbers were so low. I think that's part of it.
Now I'm gonna have to look, so let you know.
I'm gonna hold you to that. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the official budget vote and election results signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the appointment of personnel on a long-term continuing temporary or per diem substitute basis. I have a motion to bring these 5 individuals, the approval of these 5 individuals, we're not bringing the individuals, but the approval of that to the floor.
So moved.
Ms. Bello, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Pello-Fortney. Any questions on that? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We have the approval of a letter of resignation for the purpose of retirement of Sharon Krasel, 28 years with the district. That's impressive. I have a motion on that, please.
So moved.
Mr. Johnson, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Hahn. Mr. Ziliaks?
Yeah, again, when you look down through our agenda, we have roughly 60 or so years of experience amongst the group here that is leaving the district and or retiring. We certainly want to recognize that. I don't know if our principals wanted to chime in with anything in particular at this point, but I mean, technically we're talking about Sharon right now, so.
I can just say this is such a huge loss to the district. She is incredible. I actually spoke to a parent, Sharon is, and Kristen can probably speak to this too, had the unique opportunity to be a one-on-one aide with many of our primary students who have autism, and she's changed the lives of so many of these kids. I actually had a conversation with one of the moms whose child is now in college, taking college classes, and we were talking about Sharon and the impact that Sharon had on her son as a primary and elementary student, and how she just knew exactly how to push him, how to support him, and really changed his life. And she did that for so many of our students with autism. So we are going to miss her. We are really going to miss her.
Yeah. Special people. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We have a letter of resignation from John Elliott, a cleaner, who's been with us 13 years. Could I have a motion with regret for the approval of his resignation letter?
So moved.
Mr.
Yeah, I've got to know John a little bit over the last year and a half, and, you know, John's a good example of slow and steady wins the race. You know, appreciated all his hard work as one of our cleaners, and Mr. Forbes, I don't know if you have anything to add from,
He actually, at one time was a full-time cleaner, he went to part-time because he wanted to still have something to do, and he's now realized that perhaps this isn't what he still wants to do now. Getting up there a little bit, but
Well, I'm sure his services, from a board standpoint, his services were very, we appreciated those services over the past 2.5 years when cleaning was so critical, so.
Yep, 100%.
That will be missed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a letter of resignation from Corey Engel, food service helper. Could I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Ms. Hahn, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gullo. Any comments on that?
yeah, just, I mean, another group that worked really hard, you know, especially with the past pandemic, really making some adjustments to make it work, and we appreciate Corey. Absolutely. Are sorry to see our relationship end. Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Thank you. So then we have another letter of resignation for the purpose of retirement from Joanne Ryan, teacher's aide with the district for 15 years. Can I have a motion on that, please?
So moved.
Mr. Johnston, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Gullo. 15 years.
Yeah, again, teachers' aides are often the unsung heroes and really make those connections with students. Certainly we appreciate everything Joanne has done for us. And principals, anything we want to chime in there?
Sure,
Paula?
I think I can speak for Kristen and I. We're gonna miss Joanne. She's worked with our special ed kids over the years, and she's the most kind and caring woman. She's irreplaceable, and we're gonna miss her so much.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Then we have a letter of resignation for the purpose of retirement for Virginia Harper, teacher's aide with 6 years service to the district. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Is that Ms. Hunt? And a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Any questions, comments on that?
Yeah, I've enjoyed getting to know Virginia. She's kind of on my morning lap, and see her in the middle school hallway quite a bit. And absolutely want to thank her. Paula, anything
Yep.
to add there?
Virginia as well. You'd see her often with Joanne. They work with our special ed students, and they have a tough job every single day, but they come in and they smile and they love our kids. And we are gonna miss her. You know, it's just, I heard about Joanne, and then Virginia said, and by the way, I'm turning 62, and I'm like, no. I mean, I got emotional. I have to say, I kind of got choked up because, they're just two people that serve such an integral piece of what we do, and we're gonna miss both of them so much.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the appointment of Cindy LeBaron to a probationary position as a cleaner. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. Paul Fortna and Ms. Gullo. Correct? Any questions on that?
Just that we're happy to have Cindy on board. Again, this is a replacement, not a new position. And, always good to have a new employee with the district.
Yes, cleaner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
Okay, okay. So that's where we're at now, is the superintendent's report.
Yep.
Mr. Zoliak.
Yeah, I have a couple pieces of information. In the SMORE that went out earlier today, we had a letter from me regarding school safety, and I just wanted to not necessarily read the entire thing, but just kind of summarize some of the things. And you know, it's addressed to the entire Fredonia community. And as we're all aware, there's been a series of events over the last few weeks that certainly has brought school safety back to the forefront of conversations and discussions. And not that it ever goes too far from our administrative team or the Board of Education, because absolutely, the safety of Fredonia student, staff, and the community in general is a paramount concern to all of us. And for these reasons, we put a lot of time into our plan and our training to make sure that we are prepared to respond to a variety of situations in a calm and deliberate manner. And we thank everybody in advance for being fully aware of those safety procedures, practicing our drills with fidelity, and being ready to take action as needed. Although we update these plans yearly, and you know, we also revisit them intermittently throughout any given school year, and this allows us to really take the lessons that are learned in a variety of scenarios and apply them to our specific set of circumstances in the district. And we also are open to thoughts from our stakeholders, questions, concerns, and ideas that might come forward in terms of safety and preparedness. We thank those individuals who have reached out over the past several weeks, really showing a level of concern, not only for our students, but just our entire school community. And based on that feedback from a variety of sources, we revisit and have revisited a variety of security topics and made some adjustments as needed. Whether they're small, and we're also open to some larger ideas that we might not be able to take action on right now, but we're certainly processing those and keeping those on a list of concepts that we're taking a look at in the bigger picture. In the back of the room tonight, we have our school safety advisor, Tim Kackelmeyer, who has been extremely helpful in this review process and is more than willing to sit down with our faculty and staff, have discussions about state safety, visit faculty meetings, or respond to surveys that we send out, like Mr. Drollinger did recently with the elementary school. And with his military background, as well as his background as a New York State trooper, he is really an invaluable resource to us. Although I didn't want to share tonight any specific areas that have come forward, fearing that that might be perceived as a point of weakness, or maybe get people thinking about certain parts of our procedures or protocols. I did want to make everyone aware that this is a process we typically go through, and this is true of this year as well, and especially over the last couple of weeks. Additionally, Mr. Kackelmeyer and I met with Doug Essex, our mayor, David Price, our police chief, and also our new fire chief, Josh Myers, yesterday, and just sat down to have a conversation about, let's review the plan, the policies, procedures, but let's also think about how we can collaborate, how we can work together, how we can be on the same page, and what might be some next steps that we can do together as a team to make sure that we're keeping everybody as safe as possible. We certainly appreciate their attendance, their concern, their responsiveness, and their team approach. We also continue to focus on mental health as a district. We heard some examples of that tonight. but also pre-K-12. We also continue to remind everybody of our See Something, Say Something campaign. And again, if something doesn't seem right, something doesn't sound right, you hear something, you see something that just doesn't sit well, please reach out to any adult, reach out to any administrator, anyone attached to the district. That begins a process of review and investigation and really trying to understand what's happening. And again, we are more than willing to take action as needed. So at the end, we really thank everyone for their support and the steps that we continue to take to handle emergencies effectively and efficiently. We also thank our faculty and staff as well as local law enforcement for their diligence in this effort and doing everything we can to keep everyone as safe as possible. Again, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly with emails, which I have received, and again, I thank those people, or a phone call, or any other format you'd like to have a discussion. I'm more than willing to participate and be part of addressing and having some dialogue about whatever might be out there as a concern. So, having said that, I don't know if there were comments from the Board of Education in this, with this topic tonight. Maybe even after that, asking Mr. Kakelmeyer if he had anything he wanted to add. So, Board of Education.
So, a couple of questions I have is, as far as, you know, I hear you have these meetings, I assume it's in an office. You lay boots on the ground with these people to look for deficiencies in the buildings and the grounds with their expertise. You know, I know there was a building survey at one point that was part of the Stockton County School Board Association, probably 7 or 8 years ago, that brought in FBI agents that actually talked about all the things that different schools needed to look at.
Yep.
You know, so I wonder how that's being addressed.
Yeah, in a couple different ways. One of the things that we're just starting to get more information about is that we are part of a grant through BOCES that's all about needs assessment and threat assessment. And we're going to be engaging in that process a little bit differently than we have in the past, although again, I think Tim brings this to the table, and he is all over the campus on a daily basis and has that lens of those areas of deficit or gap. So he's certainly been helpful to that, but also engaging in a larger process that involves feedback from other districts as well, I think will be helpful. The other thing that we talked about is really, especially with the new people that are on board at those various agencies, getting them into our building and familiarizing themselves with our building should they need to enter under a more stressful situation. And I think that would naturally lend to a dialogue about what they're seeing and what they're perceiving. And Tim is coordinating with those groups to make that happen as soon as possible. So I think both those elements will be really helpful in moving forward and, again, being as thorough as possible what we're trying to do.
And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, I can't remember how long ago, time goes by so quick, but the school board went over and we had a walkthrough in Wheelock. Can you speak to what our plans are with that?
Yeah, a couple things. One of the things that we're looking to do at Wheelock is do some work on the office in the front of the building, and we're looking at ways to do that sooner than later. The process doesn't lend itself to that, but Mr. Ford has reached out to Young and Wright for any way that we might be able to speed up that process. Right in the moment, probably the biggest barrier is the approval process through New York State Education Department, and obviously before we do any work, that needs to be approved and settled, and we're exploring ways that we might be able to speed up that process that typically doesn't move as quickly as we would like.
What's your anticipation as far as time?
So in the past, you know, approval hasn't been to the early part of the school year for an outlay project, which this is. Then we go through the bid process, again, not necessarily hoping us on moving forward sooner than later. And then the work is started well into the school year, and we're just trying to see if there's any way to speed that up into as early into the school year or as late in the summer as possible.
So to that piece, that would be part of our $100,000 capital fund project. And the reason that we go through those processes mostly is for the funding.
Yep.
And for the approval.
Right.
Are we allowed to make adjustments to the building, like segregating off hallways with doors, bringing in contractors to do something that shows a little bit more of an urgency after our visit?
Yeah, I believe, and John, I'll let you chime in here, that any of the work that we would do in the building needs to be approved at the SED level.
Yeah.
So I think that regardless is gonna be in the mix, whether we are paying for it upfront or paying it outright. I think we're still in this process.
We would also have to have the architect, which they did here at one point, you may recall that, evaluate like where you can put doors and where you can't put doors. Because you just can't say, I want a door here, there's fire regulations and egress and all that kind of stuff that they could assist with and say, yes, you can or no, you can't.
They would meet the code. So to that, I mean, with $100,000, that really with the cost of materials today is cutting us pretty thin. So, you know, to the master plan that we spoke of, if we're gonna have an architect involved, and the architect, you know, to work on a grander scale of scope of work, but to sort of segment it out into different phases, whether we use our money or if we get funding from the state. Is that part of what we're looking at in our school safety build out?
Yeah, and I think the first thing we're trying to establish, and I think this was part of the conversation too, that we have a few different things happening at Wheelock. And would it, and can we, and when can we shift to a more unified effort that doesn't kind of divide the different purposes of the building and maybe muddy up the waters a little bit from, you know, a place of adult learning and a place of student learning. So I'm in communications with BOCES right now. First of all, trying to establish what are we going to be using the building for. And I think once we have a clear picture of when that transition can happen, then we'll be able to put a plan in place that will be a little more efficient and not have us adjust some things that might not match the eventual use of the building.
So to that, hearing you say that, wouldn't we set priority as a district as to what our needs are before we allocate what's available to BOCES?
Sure. And we're in a dialogue right now, and I did give them a chance to explore options and see what it is that they can do before we made a definite decision about where we were or what the final decision is.
Okay. So I'm sure you're working with the administrative team to develop the needs of that particular building. I mean, much to what we heard today about the need for a room for a library. Is there other needs down there that you're working on that, you know, is part of change that's going to take place in using that? We were just thrusted into that, relocating, and to that thrust, there was quite a bit of change that took place in this main campus as far as safety and coordinating things off that were never done to that building. So, you know, it's kind of important that that takes place basically sooner than later as far as a need. If we're going to start looking at a $100,000 project that's just going to change one entrance, and we saw that we're using a good part of that building because of the needs of the additional rooms. So, you know, I just, the big plan is, when would you say that you're going to have a thought process process on that to present to the board?
That's a good question, and I don't think we're quite there yet. You know, I would like to kind of follow up with BOCES and understand what their options are. And although I'm not implying that we would do something that wouldn't meet a priority of ours, I think that's a decision that we don't want to take lightly. We want to understand the implications on what's been a good neighbor for a period of time. And I think once that's established, that puts the ball in our court of, okay, knowing that, what's the decision that we want to make, and how quickly can we move to have anything in place that might be possible for September. I mean, right now we have some organizations reaching out to us looking for classroom space. A lot of the BOCE space is not classroom space. It's more geared for that professional development piece, and not that there couldn't be a transition there, or even maybe just being flexible in dealing with a room that's not solely outfitted as a classroom right now. But I think that would be part of the discussion too, of what the request is, do we have those spaces available, and that there's some work to do there.
So am I hearing you say that we really can't move forward with a $100,000 capital project until we really have that plan in place?
I don't think so. I think regardless of what the plan looks like, we still need that office, and that'll be an important piece moving forward in whatever configuration we end up with. And I think having that office at that main entrance, at the main focal point of the building is going to be essential regardless.
Okay. And will that be used as a bus drop-off also?
The main entrance, and I think right now that's primarily what happens. I don't know about the entrance that's further down to the left.
Yeah, usually
from
use
there.
door 3,
Yeah.
just because it's convenient right there, but door 5 is used for visitors solely right now. We have someone sitting at a desk there throughout the day and checking people in.
When we visited, I felt a little uncomfortable with how open the building was. And you seem to agree by nodding your head.
Yeah, which we were able to move. Thankfully, we were able to work with Dr. Ziliaks and move, so we were able to hire someone to sit at that door 5, and have the Raptor system there for visitors to come through. So it felt like we had a better idea of who was in the building, but it is, I'm glad that the capital project was approved. I'm very grateful to the voters, because that definitely is going to help our security at Wheelock.
Okay. And with that being basically a hallway away from a secure set of doors close to your office, how does that pose any issues?
It's a good question. I've talked to Sylvia, the secretary there, about how we might be able to manage some of that, because if she's over there and I'm down the hallway, how could we do that? So that's a good question. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. We really haven't talked about that piece yet, not really knowing when we could get started on the work and whatnot. So we definitely need to think about that.
Mr. Kacklemeyer, anything from a larger safety point of view you just wanted to share at this point, or you?
We did move the door from where it was originally to the new place that it is, and there is eyes on that door all the time now, where before there was not eyes on that door, and people were buzzed in from the office and got in and got to walk through the building before they were greeted sometimes. So that's a big thing right there, is there is a locked door there. It is manned. You can see the person with direct eye contact without a camera being used, and the door has to be opened by somebody in order for the person to gain access to the building. And having the Raptor system right there too, it gives us an opportunity to scan a person's ID to make sure they're okay to be in the building. It's better than what it was. We still need some improvement.
Thank you.
Also just want to mention as part of the s'more, we have an additional half-day at the elementary school, which will be on June 23rd. I know Mr. Drowninger is sending that out directly to the families through school messenger. Again, half-day dismissal is at 11:30. The reason for this is that there's been a number of days throughout the school year, and this is no fault of anybody. I think First Student has done an awesome job this year, really figuring out how to deliver and get our students home each day in a time where we know that the bus driver shortage is real. But there has been moments that our elementary teachers have spent time beyond the contract day, helping students get to buses and making sure that everything is settled. So this half day kind of allows them to recoup that lost time due to these efforts. So we are communicating that with families. I also wanted to mention that we had another great experience, and Paul, I'm sorry if I steal a little thunder from your middle school comments today, with Quest this year, and we certainly thank all involved, and there's some people in particular we wanted to thank. First of all, the program leaders at Fredonia are Steve and Sue Cobb, and certainly I think everybody knows both, and the commitment that they have made over time to this program is amazing, and we 100% thank them for their efforts. We also have students participate from Casadega, so Kelly Schrantz and Reggie Cole at Casadega head up that effort, and also Silver Creek, Chris Previtt. So thanks to all of the building leaders. We also had a number of adults involved, from the food truck to the water truck to the mobile medical units. Karen Golmitz, Daryl Wagg, Wesley and Chrisley Bartu, Melissa and AJ Balch, Jake Proper, Aaron Helwig, Rachel and Susan Spangler, Bethany Bush and Skip Gustafson. We also had a number of adults at Russell Joy Park helping out, Doug and Tess Carell, Carly and Jared Koopman, also Chris Anderson. We also had about 25 private landowners giving us permission to be on the land at some point over the course of the hike. We had administrators, teachers, nurses, kitchen staff, the print shop, all here at Fredonia helping out, as well as at Casadega and Silver Creek. We also had some organizations involved, the Bethany Baptist Camp, Fredonia Department of Parks and Recreation, Fredonia PD, Fredonia Fire Department, Fredonia DPW, Fredonia Police Benevolent Association, the New York State Forest Rangers, Chautauqua County Sheriff's Department, the Southpaw Signs, Tops Market, and also Roger Gloss. There was also another 30 adults, who I'm not going to take the time to read, who actually participated in the hikes themselves, from all three of the school districts, mostly faculty and staff, but also some community members. So great job by all involved. So as we know, this is an important and valuable program here to us, and we are certainly looking forward to moving forward to keeping this tradition going, which is certainly supported by the district. We are looking at next steps for next year based on feedback we have received. We will be reaching out to those involved with more information later in the next week. So thank you to everybody involved in Quest. I think it was a great experience for our middle school students once again this year. I participated briefly, not for the whole 4 days, but I got a sense of what this is all about, and also had a chance to interact with some of the adults that continue to come back each year to help out and to support the cause. And it was really great to hear their experience as students here at Fredonia, and then how this has stayed with them over time. Any comments from the board?
So to the future of West, will there be any type of special meeting to hear any concerns or to enhance next year's West?
Yeah, well, I think we've had an open dialogue with the Cobbs, who again are the point person for all this. They are the champions of Quest. I think they provided some really good feedback about things that they believe can be helpful or would be helpful, not only to the individuals involved, but just to the overall experience. And I think we're taking a moment to consider those things, try to make the best decisions we can about what we're able to do. And that's in process right now.
Okay, so when you say what you're able to do, that's without the cops?
Not necessarily. What I'm more talking about is financially. Part of their feedback was there's a need to support Quest in to a greater extent than we have in the past as a district. So I look at more from a financial point of view. Although there might have been some miscommunication somewhere along the line, the Cobbs are fully committed to continuing on next year as they have in the past, and had noted with me that they are rejuvenated by this year's experience, and that, you know, in the midst of COVID, they started to question whether this is something they could do long-term, but they seem excited and plan to continue in the same role that they have in the past.
So, how does the board stay connected to these processes that take place in the leading up to the discussion and so forth? That's why I asked if there was a public meeting or something of that sort, not something that's going to happen in a closed meeting as a forum. So, you know, to that, I really think that the investment that people have made, just as you have spoke, in helping and their willingness to give up their time for better than 2.5 decades and longer, really shows that this is a successful group of people. And, you know, how do we have a succession plan moving forward? You know, money is always a barrier, but John always seems to find it. We're not talking $100,000 here.
No.
And, you know, to that, we would definitely want to make sure that the public knew, because this is a public, this is a community piece and event that, you know, all parents, all kids, teachers, everybody from the community gets involved in this in some way, somehow. And it would be no different than losing a school music. I think it's that important.
Are we into the impression that there's any thought that we would
Well, I know there's
continue?
been a little bit of confrontation back and forth via emails, and it was put on the slate for executive session tonight, and I would just as soon discuss anything, because it is definitely a community project discussed in the open session as opposed to behind closed doors.
Well, what would you like to see happen, Tom?
I would like to see, you know, the Cobbs asked as to what it is that they feel needs to happen to move this forward if they weren't available. I think that through one of their emails, they were speaking about how they did have a little bit of a succession plan. So to that, you know, if there's a money issue, which I would assume, you know, bringing John in tonight's meeting, the executive part that we were going to discuss finance.
Right.
You know, I don't know what kind of money we're talking about, but we're talking about taxpayers' money. And,
Sure.
you know, it should be done in an open meeting, because we're not really talking about an individual, we're talking about a group. And, you know, to that group, it's the community, and they're the ones that pay the taxes, they give you the money to spend.
Well, you know, I think there's an argument to be made there, and I understand what you're saying. You want to have conversation in open session, absolutely. And, you know, I think there's a moment where we do regroup as a board and do have some conversations offline before we bring them forward. So I don't know, what do you think would be the amount of money that you would be comfortable?
I don't know what's been asked or what's been spent, to be honest with you. And money really wasn't the topic. You know, at the point, I mean, I just saw hundreds of dollars, I didn't see thousands of dollars. And I've seen a lot of people stepping up in the community to donate and keep this going, so that just tells me how important it is. And if there's any chance of, or thought of this not moving forward, I would definitely not be in favor of that.
I'm not, it feels like you have the impression that there's some thought that we wouldn't continue to move forward with Quest,
Well,
and I'm not sure why you feel that way.
Well, I just have a feeling that there's a communication gap of some sort, and, to that, I just felt that this needed to be said and brought out.
Right. But even with the communication gap, why would you think that somebody here is not supporting Quest? Certainly, I have communicated nothing but my full support. Our middle school administration and faculty and staff has had nothing but great things to say about it. So despite, maybe there was a communication gap, that is possible. What is making you think
I
that
guess
we're
I'm
not
speaking of worst
fully ready
case
to
scenario.
move forward?
Speaking of worst case scenario, that's what I'm speaking of.
Okay.
And, to that, speaking of worst case scenario, I just don't want to see that worst case scenario happen. That's what I'm saying.
So if I could take what Mr. Rock is saying and maybe taking it from a different standpoint, it's a frequent practice after events like this, and nothing bad about, I'm very supportive of Quest, but there needs to be a meeting of possible administrators along with the cops, along with volunteers, to sit down and say, what can we do to make this better? What can we do to make sure there's a succession? What are some of the financial issues? What are some of the infrastructure issues that need to be done? Leadership succession. But I don't think that the board should be involved in that at the beginning. I think that's much later on in the process. But I'd like to see, the people who know what's going on with Quest to sit down and really hash this out and then later come to the board with a plan.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
But it's really going through with the people who know what's going on with the program, and to say, how can we make this better? Now, as far as Quest is concerned, I know I sound like a broken record, and we talk about what is it that we want from our seniors when they walk across the stage picking up their diplomas. And at your interview, you said we shouldn't, academics is important, but you can Google anything. You can Google any answer. What we really need to help and develop within the district is those soft skills. It's the communications, it's the teamwork, it's the dedication, determination. If I didn't say leadership skills, and that's something that Quest does. And it's a program I don't want to lose. And that's why I would support it. But I think that the board needs to come in later.
Okay, fair enough. Any other thoughts?
I agree. I think, they get together and then we come in at a later point. And again, Quest is a fantastic, what school has this program? I'm certain we're going to continue it. I'm absolutely 100% certain we're going to continue it. But we do want to see that they're fully supported. And I think that starts with Dr. Zoliak's admin team, and then, then we intervene at that point. So, but once again, a fantastic program. Definitely, it's an absolute gem.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple other things. One, just a quick thank you to the student athletes and the coaches from the spring season. Well done, great job. A lot of positives from this spring season. We appreciate all the hard work. Also looking forward to the end of the year events, including those attached to our high school seniors. I want to thank everybody in advance for the prep and planning that goes into all of these events as we come down the home stretch of the school year. We also want to note that for any of the upcoming events, especially art shows, concerts, other things that are happening in the building, we will be utilizing our one-point exit and entry, and that will be at the event entrance. This may cause a little extra walking here and there, but certainly we see it as another measure to keep everyone as safe as possible. So if you are coming to the building for anything over the next, well, there's something every night this week, but into next week, please use the event entrance as you're attending. We appreciate you being here. We had a special meeting with some new employees, and again, the only reason for that is that we want to move forward as quickly as possible. There's a lot of competition in the marketplace right now, as well as just a lot of processes in motion. So we wanted to secure people that we've extended employment to, and one of them is here tonight. Michelle Dolly is with us tonight. She is going to be our new high school business teacher next year. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Business Studies from UB, as well as a Master's of Science in Business and Marketing from the same school. She has a permanent certification in Business and Distributive Education. She currently works in a neighboring district as a business teacher. She brings 16 years of teaching experience to the table and is already approved to teach all of and several more JCC college courses, which is difficult to find in the current market. And she has also worked at JCC, Jamestown Public Schools, as well as the Cat Allegheny BOCES. I wanted to take a moment to welcome Michelle to the team. We are excited to have her on board. And also give you a quick minute to say anything you might want to share with us tonight.
So I actually live in Silver Creek with my husband and 3 college kids right now. And like Dr. Ziliak said, I've been teaching for 16 years. I've been friends with all the business teachers that teach here for the last 15, so I've worked with them very closely too. And this would be a very easy transition for me to come here, and I'm really excited. So thank you.
Welcome, welcome.
We also have a middle school business teacher that we approved. Her name is Maddie Webb. She is currently traveling extensively with her family in Africa right now, so she is not here this evening. But she is certified in business education as well as marketing. She has a bachelor's in accounting and business information systems from Messiah College. She did her student teaching at West Seneca East and West Seneca West. She has prior experience as a staff accountant and is currently in progress with her master's, 24 hours completed. And this will be her first full-time probationary position as a teacher in New York State schools. So we are excited to have her on board and look forward to having Madeline begin her transition with our current business department. Although she was on the Zoom last week, again, Michelle Russ will be joining us in our music department as a replacement for Mike Mallory. And again, she went here in SUNY Fredonia, got her master's from UB, certified in music, also has 16 years of teaching experience. Currently an instrumental teacher for the Paul Effman Music Organization that delivers instruction in both parochial and charter schools. She currently teaches about 200 students in grades 1 through 8 in woodwinds, brass, and percussion and violin. And she also performs herself in several orchestras and ensembles. So again, welcome to Michelle, but also to Maddie, and then Michelle Russ, our music teacher. So another quick round of applause. And if there aren't any other questions, I think that wraps up the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. And since I do most of the talking here, yeah. Yep, I'll take care of that.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I'll take care of that.
I thought you
But since I do most of all the talking here, Michelle, business, it's a great place and holds a very special place in what I do, so good to have you on board. Thank you. With that, thank you, Mr. Johnson. I assume that you're going to make a motion to accept the calendar. So that's, we have the second reading of the 22-23 school calendar. Just to bring that to the floor for discussion, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for the motion, and we need a second.
Second.
Mr. Hawk. Okay, any questions, comments?
No adjustments from the calendar that you've seen, and we will have that out to our employees tomorrow, assuming it is approved, and we appreciate people's patience in this process, and I think we should be good to go.
Any questions, comments from the board?
I love the mural.
We're not done yet. You get your own time.
Any more questions from the board? No.
All those in favor of approving the 22-23 school calendar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I thought we were past that.
Great. We have a ceremony next meeting.
We do, yeah. We invite any and all participants to stop by our event entrance again into the cafeteria, eventually into the hallway down in between the gym and the auditorium. We have a wall of honor ceremony at that time. Again, that's June 21, just before our regularly scheduled meeting here at 6. The ceremony will begin at 5 p.m. And again, we'll be in that auditorium lobby area. We'll be honoring Mr. Lenny Vento as well as Mr. Tom Barisi for their dedication, hard work, and overall fantastic leadership to the district at that time. We're going to have a lot of family and friends on hand. We look forward to that. We'll have their plaques up, joining a couple other former employees actually on the wall of honor. We'll say a few words and then just have some chance to mingle and share some refreshments, and it should be an enjoyable evening. So I know some of the people from Wheelock were very interested in this event, as well as other people from across the district. So we look forward to that, and hope anybody who would like to will join us.
Cookies and milk afterwards.
Something like that, yeah.
That's good. I always like cookies and milk. Okay. So the board has reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board or as a stand, give their name and address, and limit the comments to 5 minutes. Anyone like to address the board on any issue? I think there's a table in the back that's playing tic-tac-toe. And I'm not sure who's winning that tic-tac-toe game, but maybe they're listening. Okay. Okay. So, again, the next regular Board of Education meeting is Tuesday, June 21st, 6 p.m. right here in the High School Library, after the Wall of Honor ceremony. If I could, I say thank you so many times, and I know that it's never enough. And after the events that we've seen over the past couple of weeks, I would be disappointed in myself. I didn't continue to thank Mr. Kackelmeyer. Thank you to the administration, the staff, the teachers, everyone involved in keeping our students safe. Education is important, but safety is premier. So thank you very much to everybody. Thank you. Okay. With that, Mr. Hawk, do you have anything to add other than the mural and the artwork in the back? I thought we might have like some comments on, you know, a little bit more of a explanation.
Could someone speak on those
I
pieces?
think that might be part of the round table here tonight.
Okay.
Well, it will, you're sure of it?
I was trying not to steal anyone's thunder.
Okay,
So,
okay. I'm gonna call you on it if I can, especially the pictures in the back. Those are very nice. Okay, Mr. Hawk.
No, other than the mural, it's been a great year. Glad to see the kids, made it through and didn't have to throw masks back on with all the uptick in the COVID numbers.
Yes.
But, yeah, glad to see it's to the end of the year and everything's kind of smooth.
Great. Ms. Powell-Ford?
I'm gonna be really brief. I had about 7 specific things to mention, but so many awesome activities, year-end, great things happening. So I'm sure that they'll get touched on, but very much appreciated. Senior activities, field trips, band trips, all of those things. So thank you to everybody that's involved in supporting those things.
Is this what normal feels like?
Maybe. Getting close.
Very close.
Yeah, I
Ms.
agree.
Gillo?
All good things happening, looking forward to the end of the year. Senior things, which are exciting and back to normal. And then I just really enjoyed the 2 presentations today.
Very much.
So those were great. Thank you both very much. It was very interesting. And looking forward to seeing where it goes next year, so.
Mr. Johnson?
As always, I enjoy the presentations. I think it's been a great element to add this year, and I enjoy both of them. So.
With that being said, Mr. Drowning here, if you would just make sure that Melissa is, just tell her the board truly appreciates her coming in tonight. Her enthusiasm was wonderful. That's great. Thank you. Mr. Marshall?
Not much other than the presentations I enjoyed.
Yeah, great.
All 3 of my children had Melissa as instructors, so
Yes, Ms. Carmel?
they love reading.
Yeah. Ms. Hahn?
Well, I want to say all happy things, but it's been hard for me to focus, to sleep, to just do normal things since the events that took place in Buffalo and then Texas. As a school board, we're at the local level, so all we can do is deal with what we spoke about tonight, and that is building safety, Mr. Kackelmeyer, and the roles of individuals. And we're not permitted to get political, and I'm not interested in getting political. It is not a political issue that our country permits troubled 18-year-olds to purchase weapons of war, arm themselves up with body armor, and go out and kill multiple children. The weapons are being used for what they were made for, so I don't know why we have to pretend to be surprised when this happens. And I apologize to all of you students, because we as adults have failed you. And I just want you to know, we're not going to give up and despair. We're going to work with you to change this world. So we're with you, and we support you going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Paskey, anything happen in the high school next couple weeks?
Nothing to report. Yeah, actually, before I get into the multitude of things that I wanted to share, it's not often that we get asked, thank you, Mr. Hawk, for what kind of things you need. And I don't want to step on any toes, but I think that in both the presentations, which were excellent, there's a huge focus on literacy and great gains going on in the primary and the elementary. I would love to see that continue into the middle school. We've talked about this, I think, for years, but the addition of reading instruction, returning that to the middle school. We have no reading teachers in the middle school. I think that that's something that the board needs to consider. Also, we talk about the counselors and the social emotional needs of our kids. We added a counselor to the middle school this year, amazing. But we have one counselor that's shared between Wheelock and the elementary school and travels between the two buildings for 6th grade levels. Not enough. Our counselors, even with 2 at the middle school and 2 at the high school, are overwhelmed. We need to put more focus on that at the earlier grades as well. So I wanted to get that kind of out there because it was asked, and I think that's something that I feel very passionate about. And I think sometimes we don't share things with the board that we need to share, and that's something that I think is important. That would be the fun stuff. All right, softball team had a great season. They finished off just a game shy of going to states. They were outstanding this year. Our seniors had their senior trip last week. The lightning shut down a lot of the rides, but we had a great time. Anyways, I wanted to thank the student council for putting that trip together. I wanted to congratulate and thank Dan Bittinger for putting together the Darien Lake trip for Physics Day. And what's really cool is that the seniors who were on the softball team who gave up their senior trip to play softball, but their game was rained out, they didn't even get to go. We got them to go on the physics trip, even though they weren't physics. But so they got to go and have a little fun at Darien Lake, which was good. I want to say congratulations to our music students who attended the All-County Music Festival at Chautauqua Institution last Saturday. Congratulations to our Unified Basketball team. Thank you to the board for supporting Unified Sports. I think it's amazing. Kristen Tomaszewski shared an awesome picture from their playoff game last week, and they did a fantastic job. I want to thank Mr. Haas and the Fortna family, the big 2022 that we have out in the events entrance. The Fortnas brought that to us in 2020, and last year we had to make the extra digit for the 1 for 2021, and this year we got bold and we did 2022, and we made the 3 for next year, so we're ready to go. But that's a great opportunity for kids, and they do use it a lot to come and take pictures. Even after graduation, they stop by and take pictures in their caps and gowns, so it's a really great addition, so thank you guys for doing that. Sectional champions, and a couple of these guys might be here tonight, Alex Field, Matt Linder, Jaden Yerico, and Lilith Velez Olmo. They took first in the 4x400 relay, and they're heading to states, so we'll be having a clap out for them at school on Thursday. Lilith also took first in the 400 meter and will be participating at the state championships. Matt Lauder, I think Matt's here, he took second in the shot put at that meet and missed the trip to states by 2 inches. So congratulations to all of you. We had academic awards night last night. That was amazing. It was a very long ceremony, and it's cool. It was long, but boy, there was a lot of cool stuff going on there, and our kids were fantastic. Just a lot of accolades to our students and the community who's very supportive of our school and our students. Well over $500,000 in scholarships given away last night. Just incredible. Coming up Thursday, we have art show for all grades, which is why there's some stuff in the library. At least in the back, that's for the senior art show. The senior art show will be featured in the library, and the other grades are going to be in the art hallways. I'll leave that for Paula. We also have on Friday the senior banquet at the Beaver Club, which is now free, which is awesome. So we got pretty much the whole senior class to attend that. Senior class night is here in the auditorium at 7:45. Wanted to hit, obviously we have the class clap out parade, which is going to be the last Friday before graduation. The lineup is at 9:15, where cars line up out by the tennis courts, and then they will drive through our bus loops, head up to Wheelock, go through their bus loop, and then right to graduation rehearsal at SUNY Fredonia back at King Concert Hall, and then graduation will be on that Sunday. So I'm looking forward to having everyone there for that.
So Darren, that clap out and parade will be the 24th?
That is Friday the 24th, correct?
Okay.
Yep, 9:15
So
is lineup,
you'll
9:30.
remind us at the next meeting?
Yes, it's the 21st, right? Yep.
Yes.
Yep, I will remind you at the next meeting. And
Thank you.
just so that you guys know, if the board members are attending, we have a place reserved for you right out front of the entrance here. at the main entrance on the sidewalk, so when the cars drive by, we kind of have spaces for each one of the buildings and the board members for where everyone's gonna stand. The driver's education is up and running. I was really concerned because today was the due date for all of the applications, and just at the end of last week, I think we only had 9 registrants. We have 32 slots open, but now I believe all of them are full. Wow. So, you know, kind of last minute, like some of our seniors who are here for the last meeting before the end of school. Get that requirement done. No, that's good. And then lastly, I just wanted to hit, just so that the board is aware, the Regents exam expectations have changed for this year through the end of next school year, that they are going to allow a 50 to a 64 to be considered passing for Regents exams, and that's open to all students, and they give what's called a special appeal. The parents do have a choice not to allow their kids to get that if they want to sign a waiver on that, but that is open to all students. They have until they graduate to decide whether or not to make their 50 to 64 a passing grade. So they have to go through a process where there's like a little bit of an appeal process, but it's relatively guaranteed. So that is something new. In lieu of that change, you know, I'm a little bit concerned as a principal that a student could get a 50 on this exam, which is technically passing now, but that could bring down their average to below passing if it's figured into their overall grade. So to fix that, the way we're going to proceed this year is to only count the Regents exam if it is equal to or greater than their current average. It's still reported on their transcript, but it's not going to lower their average from what it was from their classes. I just don't want to do something that's going to hurt our kids. So we put that announcement out to our teachers this week. You know, thanks to Brad and Margie for your consultation on that, so thank you for agreeing to letting us do that. And so I think it's obviously good for kids, and that's what we had in mind when we made that decision. Done. And now I have to buy lunch, because they said whoever speaks the longest has to buy lunch.
We're not done yet.
Oh, I know.
We're gonna talk quick.
Okay, so you just make sure you're done in less than 9.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Darren will still have to speak.
Yes.
Ms. Trutman.
We have our 8th graders all going to Allegheny State Park on Friday, so they're very excited, you know, keeping our fingers crossed for good weather. They have a lot of activities scheduled for once they get there, so the kids are real excited about that. Our 5th graders on Friday are going to the Dunkirk Lighthouse, and so again, that's a real cool, it's right in our backyard, real nice trip. We just finished our 8th grade science assessment, so they're all packed up and done, and so that went really well, and everyone is kind of preparing for our final exams. Our art show, as Darren said, will be this Thursday from 5:30 to 6:30. It's in our hallways, so families will come in through the events entrance and they can walk down there and check out all the amazing artwork we have. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in the Odd, we will have our 8th grade celebration. It's when we take a little time just to celebrate our 8th graders who will be leaving us for the high school. So we always look forward to that. Thursday, we have our spring concert. Our 5th graders start to perform at 6 o'clock. They'll finish up, and our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will start at about 7:15. So it's going to be a great night of music. And then please take a look at our mural. We are so excited with Mackenzie and our art club and our SUNY Fredonia partners. They finished it. It looks amazing. We do have to do a top coat on it to kind of protect it so that it doesn't get damaged, but we are so excited that this is our first one. And this is a partnership we're going to continue on for next year, so that eventually our hallways will just be, you know, a place where we're all so proud of, and it represents who we are as a school. So I just want to say thank you to the Cobbs and all their hard work. You know, every year they put in endless hours to make the trip a good one. For me, it is so cool to see kids who do not have confidence that they can even finish the trip. And, you know, I had a young lady say, put me in ISS, so I don't have to go. She's like, the pack is too heavy, I just, you know, and when I saw her, you know, at Russell Joy, and I said, how was it? And she's like, oh my gosh, it was amazing, Mrs. Troutman. You know, that really, you know, tells you how important that is. So, thank you, I can't thank them enough for all their dedication to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Drowninger.
Thank you. I just want to thank Mr. Kettlemeyer because a few weeks ago he organized a car seat safety check at Wheelock for elementary and Wheelock kiddos through the state troopers. And that's a great thing that we can throw out to the community because they also gave away car seats to those families who needed a car seat. And next Monday, Tim organized a bike safety event that's going to take place from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the parking lot back here. You're encouraged to ride your bicycle to the parking lot. We're going to practice effectively, you know, going through a crosswalk, obeying traffic signs. We're going to have some food for the kids. And it's just a nice little community event. 1 hour, ride your bike there, and you're done. So thanks for Tim for organizing those events. And this past Sunday we had the color run. That's the PTO's largest fundraiser. It was well attended, a lot of fun, got a little color in the air, and that's always a good event. A lot of field trips, literally every single day. Today's was rained out, the Bison's game, but the students still get the ticket and then they get to go on their own time. But we're going to give the kids some pizza later in the week to kind of soften the blow. We have our art show as well on Thursday, reminding the community to use the events entrance. Same thing, 5 o'clock is the start time of ours. And April, Hartson did a great job. We had our first chorus concert in person since I've been here. And it was a really cool event. We did like 3 concerts in one night, and they rotated the audience members through so everybody could come. We didn't have to limit it, and it was a full house for all 3 of our shows. So April did an outstanding job. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ms. Farrell.
So, Mr. Paschke mentioned this just briefly, but Unified Sports has wrapped up an amazing year this year. That program is growing, and Mrs. Tomaszewski has really taken a lot of that on herself independently. So I just, excuse me, wanted to thank her for that. Some of the kids from her class actually participated in the torch run for a very scaled down Special Olympics event that took place this year. So that was exciting. You know, we talked a lot about safety tonight. I think I mentioned at the last board meeting that we had 19 staff members go through a training here that we brought to the district called CPI, Crisis Prevention, so that we are able to be proactive and respond to student needs. Just this week, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, I also have 2 staff members who are going to a Train the Trainer event for another program called Safety Care. So they'll be able to come back to the district and train staff in-house to be preventative and proactive when dealing with student crises. So that's pretty exciting. And just, you know, kind of in my world, we're prepping for the end of the year reporting, planning for summer school, which is, you know, a big endeavor, and hiring and planning for next school year, while we're really examining a lot of ever-changing program options and the disappearance of some programs that we knew, and kind of figuring how to make things work as we move forward. So that's it.
Glad to see the unified program has done so well.
Yeah, it's great.
When we approved that, I didn't know what to think it would do, and I've just been so overwhelmingly pleased with that program. It's been great.
Thank
It's been great for the district. Yes.
We also went to the stadium this
Oh,
weekend with
yes.
the Unified team, and we got to play at New Era, whatever it's called, Highmark Field now. They got to go in the Bills' locker room, run out the tunnel, get introduced. We played 3 games. Didn't win, but we had a lot of fun, and it was a great experience for everybody that took part in it.
Wow. That's great. Yeah. Thank you for adding that. Ms. Piper?
Go last. Yeah, let's get out of here.
No, we still got 2 more.
Okay. So I want to say thank you to Sheila for your words, because I think that those really hit home to all of us, and the students especially. The teachers have really had a hard time, and parents, and about those events that have happened. So I just want to thank you for sharing those sentiments, because we're really feeling that pretty deeply. I also want to thank Darren and the board for this very real conversation tonight. When I prepared this presentation, I knew that I had to present some hard data and some facts that might not be so rosy, and so I appreciate the conversation that we were able to have around that, and the honesty that we could have, so I want to thank you for that. Nickel City Reptiles was at Wheelock today, and the kids were super excited. You could hear the screams throughout the building, and we had alligators and snakes and all sorts of reptiles that our PTO sponsored bringing in for us, so we were super excited about that. I want to put a shout out to some of our classrooms did cards for a cause for elder abuse, and they created some cards that were picked up today and distributed to some of our elders that are dealing with some things. Barker Library, we have been making some trips to Barker Library. We had a presentation here a month or so ago, and the kindergarten classes are taking trips walking down to Barker Library and getting their library cards and experiencing that with their kindergarten teachers, and so we're excited about that. It's water days, so we've been having a lot of water days at Wheelock and kiddie pools and the outdoor classroom and having some fun with the water days. We're also approaching June Fun Days. For example, one of our first days is Camp Day, and the teachers actually set up tents in the classrooms, and they spend a lot of time reading. A lot of these events are focused around reading and the love and joy of reading, that being a particular one. I would be remiss without putting a shout out again to Sharon Krizal, who is just one of those people that's the heart and soul of Fredonia, where she is going to be so missed. And I just personally thank her for for her years at Fredonia. And one other plug on bike safety with Mark. We're excited to be doing this with our PTO, and Child Safety Village is coming and partnering with us as well and doing some presentations, so we want to thank them. I think that's it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Mr. Forbes?
Nothing this evening.
No. Budget's passed.
Darren used my time up, so I can't.
Okay. Ms. Wright?
A few things going on in the human resources side of the job here. We've been working on the hiring for summer programs, really looking at meeting student need, looking at how we can be flexible with that, not just sticking to a traditional summer program, because that's maybe what has always, when people think of summer school, it's like this grade, this grade, this grade, but what are our needs? And it's been wonderful having conversations with Mr. Drollinger, looking at the data to see, okay, just because a child is in third grade, maybe they're reading above, maybe they're reading far below. So do we have a flexible approach to our summer school programming, working on skills, which is what, ultimately was the decision. And I love having those collegial conversations and the input and being able to have that hard data to drive those conversations, to say we have these clumps of students with, perhaps these needs with skills, and they might be in, first grade, second grade, and third grade. So let's make a primary reading, primary skills base, and then maybe more advanced base, and then same thing with math, and be able to flexibly do that. So we're offering summer support where it's actually targeted and needed in ways that students can work together and be engaged, and feel that they can help one another, and that teachers can target those needs in a really flexible, multi-age way. So it's been really exciting. So I just am, shout out to Mr. Drollinger for his open mind with that, and for the teachers who really have received it well, and to look at things, perhaps a bit differently. And by that same vein, I want to shout out to both Mrs. Troutman and Mr. Drollinger, because one of my requests was, could we push summer school back a week to the start date of the 11th, which is what they agreed to, and I said, here's my why. I think that it's really, really, professional learning is so crucial, and I think that we're very fortunate to have a board that supports that so much. And we've worked together as an administrative team, talking about a lot of those needs, particularly around literacy and math. And so we've been working with an outside consultant coming in, and so we've designed a summer professional learning series. And so in doing that, again, using our data as our start point, and a lot of what Missy Carmelo was talking about, those domains. And so what are our needs in those domains, and making sure that who we have coming in meets that need. It's the kind of thing that when you talk about professional learning, I'm not a big fan of the term professional development. I think our
professionals are very well developed. I think that as new research comes out, it's very hard to stay current and to stay on top of those things when you're addressing many social emotional needs, when you're trying to communicate with parents, when you're trying to love on those kids and do all of those things, to also read professional articles and the latest research and how to implement those things. And, that's where my office comes in, so thank you for that. So in doing that, I'm pulling in people who have those things and can say, here's the latest research, here's how to best support iReady, here are things about iReady and what's called a teacher toolbox. So when you see those results, and I know Dr. Ziliak spoke to this much earlier in board presentations about iReady, the first one Mr. Jollinger did, oftentimes you're like, okay, great, I have this data, but what do I do with it? How do I do this? And the beauty of iReady is you go into the teacher toolbox and you look at each child to decide to read that data. It's like, do this, 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 and it provides that for you. But there's always, again, that time to sit there and do all those things in the midst of life. So we're offering a professional summer series with that is very flexible. It's a very boutique type model. Well, there'll be 3 sessions offered, and there'll be 2 trainers, one focusing on iReady Math and ELA, and one focusing on foundational literacy, so that can happen prior to the start of summer school, so that our teachers will then have a chance to use that new knowledge and new learning while they're working, with the summer school population to kind of get their feet wet and test it out and try it out and pilot some things without the high stakes and pressure of a September rollout. So that's really exciting. And then those same consultants will come back in August, I almost said April, no, August, that's the month that comes after July, to then do a next part of that, and that's going to focus on the next section. So you have the primary, now more of those elementary foundational deep comprehension, how do we respond to literature, along with middle school and high school. And so we have a focus on secondary reading and secondary writing and expression and communication. And when I put the summer learning series out there in a survey to see who would be interested to garner that, we had 65 people respond, and we made it very clear this is open to all instructional staff. And so it was really exciting to see for that secondary literacy piece, tech teachers, art teachers, people, because there's writing in all of those, content areas, but oftentimes the professional learning may not necessarily meet their need. So that was just been really exciting, when I get to kind of get my nerd on with curriculum and do all those and have those discussions and then be able to use creativity in designing it. So it's been exciting to see the excitement with that being generated, to talk to Curriculum Council about that today. As a Curriculum Council, we did a survey to set priorities, with literacy being the #1 priority area that instructional leaders really want to focus on for next year. We'll also have our secondary second priority was identified as social emotional learning, and then the third priority as the next year, the next 3-year iteration of the PD plan that has to go to the state, has to be formulated, and that has to be done through a committee model. So that will be the other thing that we do. So that was exciting to do that. We're going to do Summer Summit #2 for Curriculum Council next year in August. That date was set, along with new teacher orientation and new staff orientation. We're adding that to kind of disaggregate that so that our orientations are specific to the populations that we have. And of course, I'll remind you, but we want to continue that tradition that we started last year of inviting board members to breakfast with our new teachers. So we will have that. We're looking at Thursday, August 17th from 8 to 8:30. Our new teacher orientation will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So those are the dates that we're looking at for new teacher orientation. And that's been really exciting, and I just appreciate the collaborative model with the administrative team in designing and looking at how we can best serve our population of students and teachers in a way that's flexible and responsive, and that looks at where some of the the data is pointing us to, and then respond in that way. So, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. So with that, the board anticipates the need to enter into executive session to discuss matters pertaining to collective bargaining, negotiations, and particular personnel. If I could have a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Ms. Khan, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Portman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are in executive session at 8:00. everyone.